Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and it's my honor to welcome you to our acquisition luncheon today, co-sponsored by the good people at United Launch Alliance. Thank you, ULA. We appreciate it. Our featured speaker today is Brigadier General Roger Teague, United States Air Force Director, Strategic Plans, Programs, and Analysis at Air Force Space Command. We will hear a little bit more about General Teague's background in a bit later in the program. This is the second year we have hosted a luncheon that focused on space acquisition. This is a topic that is of great importance to our friends in the national security space community, and we are very interested in seeing what the General will have to say today. So at this time, please enjoy your lunch and please continue to enjoy each other's company. Thank you. Well, good afternoon again, and please continue to enjoy your dessert and coffee. It'll be my pleasure to introduce to you in a moment Michael Gass, the CEO and President of United Launch Alliance. Earlier this week, the world learned of the passing of Lady Margaret Thatcher, and I was looking up some of her quotes, and she certainly had some doozies. But I saw this one, and it struck me as being something that was fitting for today's lunch. She said, "What is success? I think it is a mixture of having a flair for the thing that you're doing, but knowing that that is not enough. That you've got to work hard and have a sense of purpose." And when I read that, I thought it was incredibly appropriate, considering our corporate host today, United Launch Alliance, and the good men and women at Air Force Space Command. I thought that was very fitting of them. And as we all know, ULA is a joint venture between Boeing and Lockheed Martin that furnishes the Atlas and Delta families of launch vehicles. Since their inception in 2006, they've had a string of 69 successful launches in a row. For calendar year 2013, they have a manifest of 12 launches, and they've knocked 3 down already. And one feat they are especially proud of this year is that they had 2 NASA launches, one from the Eastern Range and one from the Western Range, and they did it within 2 weeks of each other. So they're very proud of that feat. So without further ado, I would like to give you over to Michael Gass.
Thank you, Brendan. Thank you all for being here. And thank you for that kind introduction of United Launch Alliance. Good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of the women and men of United Launch Alliance, we are pleased to sponsor today's luncheon. ULA has been a strong supporter of the Space Foundation since our beginning of our operations over 6 years ago, and we look forward to the continued partnership with all of you. Thank you, Brendan, for acknowledging the launch successes. You know, we don't like to count numbers. It's one launch at a time, and we're quite proud of that string of successes and our partnership with all of our customers. ULA has delivered on all of our promises to provide our nation one team in one consolidated infrastructure, one set of best practices, delivering 2 products for assured access with more operational flexibility and at lower cost. Our dedication to perfect product delivery has enabled reliable launch and delivery of our nation's major space investments on one launch at a time with a dedication to that success. The United States is experiencing an unprecedented period in military space. This journey began in the 1990s with the development of a new satellite architecture that defined the system architecture for our launch vehicles that have delivered that 100% mission success, and more importantly, delivered the incredible capabilities that enable our armed forces to maintain superiority throughout the world. The space science and exploration communities have utilized our EELV capabilities to launch their missions that have discovered worlds we have never seen and laid the groundwork for the next phase of space exploration. Still, as we all know, we are at another crossroads in our business. At this symposium, we have heard and discussed the acquisition challenges as we consider the capabilities and next steps required to meet the needs for the next decade and beyond. We must complete the deployment of the systems developed over the past few decades as we evaluate the next generation of disaggregated capabilities and their associated funding and implementation schedules. We must leverage the accomplishments that have moved us where we are today while inspiring the next generation of space professionals. As an industry partnered with our customers, we have many challenges ahead. I am confident we will face them with the same level of resilience and excellence that has defined our nation's preeminent position as the world's leading spacefaring nation. United Launch Alliance is privileged and humbled to support our customers' missions that we proudly share in this brief video presentation.
Centaur systems, propulsion, go. Pneumatics, go. LO2, go. LH2, go. ASGAS, go. Electrical systems, airborne, go. LC, go for launch. Roger, go for launch.
2, 1. We have ignition, and we have a liftoff.
Rocket launches are critically important to our national security, our way of life, and our place in the universe.
And liftoff for the United Launch Alliance, Delta IV Heavy.
But it's not as easy as it looks. Eyes in the sky and protected communication. Weather forecasting and navigation. Solar system exploration and Earth observation.
Separation, Grail A now flying on its own.
Satellites, years and sometimes decades in the making, represent the security, hopes, and dreams of our nation. Our presence in space helps bring our troops home safely and keeps our loved ones out of harm's way. Spacecraft enhance worldwide communication, inform our understanding of the universe, and push the boundaries of innovation. At United Launch Alliance, we're honored to be entrusted with delivering these vital national investments to orbit on our Atlas and Delta rockets. And experience matters. We design systems and solutions that reliably and accurately meet customer requirements, from propulsion systems, avionics systems, and structural components, to innovative mission integration and flight profiles. We partner with industry leaders. We manufacture and build our launch vehicles using state-of-the-art processes in a world-class facility. We launch when our customers are ready to launch. And we do it again and again and again, one launch at a time.
Go. Roger, go for launch.
Because so much is riding on a single launch.
You know, I still get nervous watching the video. They worked. To all of the mission partners that are here today, I want to say thank you for giving us the opportunity to support your missions. And it's as a mission partner that I've got to have the honor to introduce today's speaker. It is my honor to introduce a great friend of United Launch Alliance, Brigadier General Roger Teague. We worked closely together with General Teague, especially during the successful SBIRS GEO-1 launch campaign in 2011, when he served as the SBIRS commander and director of the Infrared Space Systems Directorate. He led the development, launch, test, and on-orbit checkout of the first two SBIRS polar orbiting satellite payloads and the first SBIRS geosynchronous satellite deployment. And those of you know that was no easy task. The current and projected future budget environment is going to be a challenge for all of us to find new ways to deliver critical warfighter capabilities more affordably without sacrificing mission success. General Teague's background is well suited to address these concerns, having tackled a broad range of assignments focused on acquiring, operating, and supporting space control, missile warning, and communication systems. Today, General Teague is Director of Strategic Plans, Programs, and Analysis at Air Force Space Command. He is responsible for programming and advocating resources for the command, planning for the command's force structure, bases and facilities, managing the command's international relations and foreign disclosure programs, and overseeing the command's modeling, simulation, and scientific analysis activities. He has amassed an impressive list of career accomplishments since he was commissioned in 1986 as a graduate here at the United States Air Force Academy. Please join me in welcoming Roger Teague.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to be here. Mike, thank you very much for that kind introduction and for ULA sponsoring this acquisition luncheon today. It's great to be here and be able to join you. Elliot, thank you again to the Space Foundation for another wonderful symposium, albeit we're working on the attendance and realize the constraints, again, that General Shelton has previously addressed. We certainly appreciate the Foundation's support and this opportunity to get together today. Before I get going, I felt the need to really set the record straight on a couple of issues. First, it's true, Dr. Austin pointed out yesterday we had a panel discussion on mission assurance. I've got a little bit of a chipmunk cheek going. I did not get into a fight or anything like that. I had a little dental work, which still give me some issues this week. But as I looked at myself in the mirror, I realized that I had something in common with sequestration. It's just bad medicine. And I'm also reminded yesterday that during our panel discussions, there was some conversation and a question was posed as to whether or not the government could ever speak with one voice. And I made the comment, many of you might remember, I said, I don't know about you, but even in my household, my wife and I can't even speak with one voice. How do you ever expect the government to speak with one voice? My wife is here with me today. We're speaking with one voice. Her voice. Hi, honey. On a more serious note, as I speak to you this afternoon, we're reminded that the world is still a very dangerous place. Hostile rhetoric echoes across the Pacific, and conflict and strife continue in Mali and Syria. And we should never forget the current ongoing operations in Afghanistan and our forces who are deployed there. Meanwhile, the cyber threat is pervasive and present with us every day. It is literally everywhere and requires our continuous attention. In today's complex, rapidly changing world, we see other nations increasing their space capabilities, and at the same time, our defense dollars continue to decrease. In this environment, we need to constantly ask ourselves, how do we continue to deliver the superior space systems to maintain our advantage in conducting high-tempo, effective combat operations in an increasingly challenged environment? I'd like to spend a few minutes with you today reviewing our current national security space environment, discuss some of the plans that we have to address these new challenges, and review the progress that we've made in 2012. Finally, I'll wrap up with a little bit about what you can expect from Air Force Space Command in 2013. Now, as General Shelton discussed in his keynote speech on Tuesday, space systems are foundational to our modern society for both military and civil uses. From global banking to precision farming and even to the weather forecast on our evening news, our society is increasingly reliant on the capabilities and services provided from space. Imagine the devastation that could have been wrought if we had not had accurate weather information provided by our space systems prior to Hurricane Sandy. Any disruption to our space systems literally is a disruption to our way of life. And this audience certainly knows that our warfighting operations depend every day on Space Mission Area 2, including navigation, communications, missile warning, and weather. Without these capabilities, our young men and women in harm's way fighting our nation's war are at increased risk. As our reliance on space increases, we are seeing changes in the character of space itself. In 2012, the global space economy grew nearly 7%. And in fact, over the last 5 years, it's grown 37%. More and more entrants are seeking the benefits provided by space, with 11 countries now operating 22 launch sites and 60 countries or consortia operating satellites. This increased activity is leading to many more objects in space. The Air Force is now tracking over 23,000 objects, consisting of both active and inactive satellites, and thousands of pieces of potentially dangerous space debris. Model estimates indicate that there are over 500,000 potential pieces of debris, but we lack the systems and capabilities to detect them. At the same time, we're also seeing other nations acting in an increasingly aggressive manner, as demonstrated by the Chinese ASAT test in 2007. These threats are real, and therefore there is a fundamental need to increase the resiliency of our space systems in an affordable manner. So that brings me to everyone's favorite subject of late, the budget. Now, Mark Twain once said that the dictionary was the only place where success comes before work. And trust me, as the Air Force Space Command programmer, I can assure you we have been working our budget very, very hard. As General Shelton said on Tuesday, we believe that our space enterprise will soon face what is turning out to be a perfect storm with big implications to our ability to plan and program. A need to modernize our existing systems, operating under a continuing resolution for the remainder of this fiscal year, implementing an entire year's worth of sequestration cuts over the next 5 months, as well as the uncertainty of future funding for future space programs under sequestration. Folks, this is a very difficult time. And upon taking office, one of his first actions as Secretary of Defense, Secretary Hagel issued, if you will, as part of his first actions, an examination of the choices that underline our defense strategy, posture, investments, including all of the past assumptions and systems. This strategic choices and management review is an ongoing 60-day assessment to identify major strategic choices and institutional challenges affecting the defense posture for the decade ahead. This important effort will be used to inform fiscal guidance for the 2015 budget and ultimately serve as the foundation for the quadrennial defense review in 2014. Our Air Force leadership determined the best path forward is to become smaller in order to protect our high-quality and ready force. However, our forces must continue to improve in capability over time. Even though we may get smaller, modernization must remain a priority. Air Force Space Command intends to address these reductions with innovative thinking and use this as an opportunity to focus on affordability. General Shelton has mentioned many times that innovation, resiliency, and affordability are the keys to moving ahead in today's fiscal environment. It doesn't matter what size the United States military becomes, space and cyberspace are critical components to the nation's ability to project power. These capabilities underpin the Joint Force, providing the warfighter with global access, persistence, and awareness. Lieutenant General Ellen Polakowski and the acquisition professionals at the Space and Missile Systems Center have already made great strides in the pursuit of this objective. They are approaching system architecting with a new perspective, looking at long-term missions and the possibility of disaggregating or a distributed space-based capabilities across multiple platforms. These concepts are being applied both to current systems as well as future architectural planning efforts. The challenges of the emerging national security space environment are driving the need to re-examine our existing architectures and identify ways that we can improve our resiliency, flexibility, and affordability. The cornerstones of these efforts will be the Space-Based Infrared Systems Program and the Advanced EHF Program. Programs central to General Shelton's top space core functions. These programs represent nearly 2 decades of development and production and provide unequaled capability for our own national security as well as for our international partners. Any future architectural efforts, though, in these mission areas will certainly leverage that investment. However, these systems may not be optimized or appropriate to address and meet the rapidly changing environment that our space domain sees today. Just as we modernize our aircraft to meet new threats, we must examine similarly in the same approach the way to modernize our space systems. Think about it. Our space environment has changed dramatically over the past 20 years, with many new actors and potential hazards to operations. So too must our system architectures that will operate in this new environment. Today's approach relies largely on a small number of large, extremely capable multifunction satellites. Given the evolving space environment, though, we believe we need to aggressively pursue resilient solutions that could potentially operate through contested environments and give us cheaper alternatives to replenish architectures should our capabilities be lost. We don't have that flexibility today. The decision to purchase a new satellite today literally is a $1 billion plus decision. As we look at space architectures that may exist some 10 to 20 years from now, we see several key attributes emerging. One characteristic is improved resilience, again, through disaggregation as well as passive protection measures. This approach could lead to smaller, simplified payloads that use less complex bus and even take advantage of potentially hosted payload arrangements with other national security space or commercial entities. Now, during this week, several senior leaders have discussed the benefits of hosting government payloads on commercial satellites and the tremendous success that the commercially hosted infrared program, or CHIRP, has brought. Now, this program paved way to demonstrate improved mission resiliency, again, through disaggregation. CHIRP was on orbit just within 39 months after contract award, and the acquisition approach used to develop the demonstration reduced both life cycle costs as well as increasing our launch flexibility. These are key characteristics to successfully fielding future systems. Best of all, CHIRP met all of its mission objectives, providing persistent steering capability for battlespace awareness and the first ever wide field of view infrared steering payload. And while CHIRP was a technical demonstration effort only, its success reinforces the critical need to preserve our space modernization funding lines in both the Space-Based Infrared System program as well as the Advanced EHF program. These SMI funding lines give us the opportunity and the flexibility needed to mature key technologies, reduce risk, and expand participation across the entire industrial base to ensure we field the most capable and affordable space systems in the future. Also, since launch costs are such a major driver in space systems, another key initiative is to examine multiple opportunities to get to space. Hosted payloads are just one option. Rideshare on launch vehicles or multi-satellite launches in the case of larger constellations such as GPS are also being evaluated. Reducing the size and weight of our satellites opens up a much larger market for launch vehicles, vendors, and launch sites. But it's not all about the satellite. It's also about the ground systems as well. Command and control capabilities that leverage existing networks and protocols allow for more commonality and eliminate stovepipe systems. We are leveraging commercial off-the-shelf options where possible. This reduces technical risk, development time, and certainly provides opportunities to stabilize the industrial base. Investments in technology and manufacturing techniques may also reduce the costs per platform. We must examine changes in our business strategies that focus on leaning out production lines, driving down overhead costs, and streamlining program governance as appropriate for the system that we are acquiring. Our combined focus on innovation, resiliency, and affordability will continue to ensure that we deliver incredible capabilities for our warfighters that our nation expects. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't take just a minute to recap a few of the remarkable capabilities that our combined government and industry team delivered to our great space enterprise in 2012. 4 satellites were delivered for launch last year: SBIRS GEO-2, GPS-2F Vehicles 6 and 7, and Advanced EHF-2. 5 programs were turned over for operational testing or to initial operations capability, including Advanced EHF-1, SBIRS GEO-1, Raiders, JMS Increment 1, and the AFSCN Guam Remote Block Change upgrade. We expanded our international cooperation efforts by awarding the International Partners Buy of WGS-9. And finally, we continued our string of successful launches with 8 EELV and 2 small launch vehicles. And this success carried over in 2013 with the successful launch of SBIRS GEO-2 on March 19th. Yes, I still very much am paying attention to the SBIRS program, and that's a great success for our nation. While delivering on these impressive capabilities in 2012, the SMC team also made significant progress, streamlining the acquisition plans, strategies for follow-on buys of Advanced EHF 5 and 6, SBIRS 5 and 6, as well as GPS 3. Through innovative strategies, smart application of risk reduction, and lessons learned, SMC realized a whopping $985 million in cost reductions and savings in these programs. These savings were generated really by an intense focus in 4 main areas: improving our governance and leaning out our processes, reducing staffing and streamlining organizations, tackling production contract costs, and an examination on an event-by-event basis, all elements of test risk in the production flow process. In some cases, we were able to reduce the amount of testing required to we were able to reduce the amount of testing required, which achieved significant savings. $985 million is remarkable by any standard, and it is the kind of new thinking that we're going to need to continue across all of our space programs well now and well into the future. We cannot be satisfied. We can and will need to do even better, and we must do better given the current state of today's national security space environment. By focusing on the initiatives in these 4 areas and continuing our momentum from 2012, SMC is targeting an additional $600 million in cost reductions throughout 2013. This year will be all about leveraging our lessons learned and closing in on a loop of a lot of ideas that were in their infant stages just last year. Now, I know that there are many in this audience today whose teams have worked long and hard over the last couple of years with their government counterparts to help us turn the corner in space acquisition. And while our work is not yet complete, you should be justifiably proud of your efforts. In several cases, space program performance is now leading the way for the entire Department of Defense. That bodes well for our future. So where does that bring us for the future, and where are we going in 2013? First and foremost, we will not forget our commitment to the warfighter. Using General Shelton's charge for innovation, resiliency, and affordability, we will deliver on our commitments by continued program execution, focusing on world-class ground system and space system capabilities. We will strive to make our space systems more affordable by targeting cost reductions across 20 major contracts and drive down production and sustainment costs. And we will continue to drive our vision through solid architectural planning consistent with our objectives. I hope everyone is excited, as we are at Air Force Space Command, about our future. While we are faced with significant challenges, this also represents an opportunity. As we overcome each obstacle, we will become wiser, more resilient, and a more effective government and industry team. Our space enterprise is used to handling adversity. We continue to be inspired by President Kennedy's words to the space community back in 1962, when he said, "We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they're hard." We have seen our way through difficult challenges in the past, and we will continue to do so in the future. Air Force Space Command realizes that we cannot do it alone. We need the continued support and strong partnership with industry, academia, and our international partners to provide the ideas, support, and cooperation required to deliver these critical space capabilities. With a renewed focus on innovation, resiliency, and affordability, we will continue to provide global access, persistence, and awareness for the 21st century to our joint warfighters and the nation. Again, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you all very much for coming, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.